You think you make your own choices, but you don't. Right now there's a technique, silent, invisible, everywhere, that's shaping how you think, what you buy, who you trust, and even who you love. It doesn't shout, it doesn't threaten, it whispers, it rewards, and before you know it, you're no longer deciding and you're reacting. Psychologists call it the invisible reinforcement loop, a method so subtle that 92% of people fall under its control without ever realizing it. It's used by brands, by governments, by people close to you. And the most terrifying part, it doesn't need power to work, just repetition. In the next few minutes, you'll see how this technique rewires your brain's reward system, how it makes obedience feel like freedom, and how to spot it before it turns your thoughts into someone else's tool, because the scariest kind of control is the one that makes you enjoy being controlled. Think about your day. You wake up, scroll for a few minutes, just to check something. But suddenly it's 30 minutes later and you can't even remember what you were looking for. That's not a lack of willpower. That's conditioning. You're not choosing to keep scrolling. Your brain has been trained to chase the next micro-reward. Every like, every notification, every soft vibration on your phone releases a small hit of dopamine. It's the same chemical released when you eat, win, or fall in love. Now imagine that, but everywhere. The same pattern exists in relationships, at work, even in politics. Someone gives you approval when you behave the way they like, and pulls away when you don't. A cycle of reward and withdrawal, and your brain learns the rule. Stay close to pleasure, avoid rejection. Over time, you don't need the command. You obey the feeling. You stop noticing when decisions stop being yours. That's why this technique is invisible. It hides inside what feels good. It doesn't force you. It teaches you to force yourself. But how exactly does that happen inside the brain? Why do smart people, even psychologists, fall for it every day? That's what you'll see next. Here's the secret. The human brain doesn't crave truth. It craves consistency. And that's what this invisible technique exploits. It's called the reinforcement loop, a psychological feedback cycle that turns habit into obedience. When you receive a small reward, a like, a smile, a message, a nod, your brain releases dopamine. That dopamine doesn't just feel good, it rewires your neurons to repeat whatever caused it. Now the next time a similar situation appears, your brain activates before you think. You're not deciding, you're predicting pleasure. That's phase 1, conditioning. Once repeated enough times, your brain stops asking, is this good for me? And starts asking, will this feel good again? Then comes phase 2, normalization. The manipulator, whether it's a person, a platform, or a system, slowly changes the rules. They reward you less often, but more unpredictably. This random reinforcement makes you addicted, not satisfied. It's the same system used in casinos, social media, and emotional manipulation. Finally, phase 3, identification. You start linking the source of the reward with safety, identity, even love. You no longer chase the feeling, you chase the giver. And once that happens, control is complete, because the brain doesn't fight what feels familiar, it obeys it. That's why this technique doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like comfort. It hides behind affection, praise, validation, all the things that make you feel alive. And that's what makes it so powerful. You can't fight what you think you need. Here's the part most people never see. The moment the illusion breaks, you start noticing patterns, the same reactions, the same triggers. You realize your free choices were actually predicted responses in someone else's equation. That's when the world starts looking different. The ads you thought were coincidences feel targeted. The relationships you thought were balanced reveal emotional transactions. Even your habits, the shows you watch, the foods you crave, start to look like scripts written by invisible hands. You weren't choosing, you were being guided, and it didn't feel like manipulation because it felt like comfort. That's the brilliance of the technique. It never uses force. It gives you pleasure until you become dependent on it, and then it quietly replaces freedom with familiarity. But here's the awakening. You can't be controlled once you see the pattern, because awareness breaks the loop. The second you recognize the emotional reward that keeps you hooked, the control loses power. You start seeing the invisible strings, and every time you notice them, one of them snaps. You feel it the first time you stop reacting to a notification, the first time you don't chase approval, the first time silence feels stronger than attention. That's the moment the system fails. Because it can manipulate behavior, but not awareness. You can't fight what's invisible, but you can learn to see it, and once you do, no one owns your mind again. Now that you've seen how the invisible technique works, here's how you dismantle it. Quietly, consistently, completely. 1. Interrupt the loop. Every loop needs repetition to survive. That's why the first rule is simple. Pause before pleasure. When you feel that automatic urge to check, respond, explain, or please, wait 3 seconds. That pause is where freedom begins. You're teaching your brain that you decide when the reward comes, not them. 2. Reclaim the reward system. Your brain was hijacked through dopamine, so start feeding it consciously. Replace random rewards with intentional ones. Walks, silence, cold air, sunlight, music. When you control the source of satisfaction, you take back the programming. 3. Rebuild focus. The invisible technique works best on distracted minds. Practice monotasking. One thing, one moment. It rewires the prefrontal cortex for self-control and awareness. You'll start feeling something strange. Calm. That calm is power. 4. Notice manipulative patterns. When someone gives you affection only after you comply, when attention appears right after guilt, pause. Ask yourself, am I being rewarded for my truth or for my obedience? That question alone separates awareness from conditioning. 5. Create friction. Algorithms, manipulators, and emotional predators hate friction. They rely on speed and instinct. So slow down everything. Your replies, your scrolling, your reactions. Each delay confuses the system, and every moment of confusion for them is clarity for you. You won't escape the loop in one day. But every conscious pause, every mindful no, is a thread snapping in the web that once controlled you. You were never weak. You were simply human, designed to seek pleasure, to avoid pain, to crave connection, and that's exactly what they used against you. The invisible technique doesn't control your will. It confuses your rewards. It convinces your brain that obedience feels safe, that reaction feels right, that silence feels peaceful. But peace that depends on control isn't peace. It's programming. Now you see the pattern. Every time you pause instead of react, the code breaks. Every time you choose discomfort over dopamine, your freedom expands. Because awareness doesn't erase the system, it rewires it. You'll still feel the pull. You'll still feel the urge, but you'll also feel something stronger, choice. And that's how the invisible becomes powerless, not when you fight it, but when you stop feeding it. The world is full of people being silently guided. You just stepped out of the current. Now watch what happens when your mind belongs only to you. Subscribe to the channel and don't stop at this video. They're still using tricks you haven't noticed yet. The next video will show you exactly how they do it. And once you see it, you'll never see people the same way again.